You won't believe this, but Yandy Smith just put Rasheeda on blast in a way no one saw coming. The internet is on fire after Yandy confronted Rasheeda over Kirk Frost's shocking role in sabotaging Mendeecees' career, and trust me, this just changed everything. For years, fans thought they knew the real story behind Mendeecees' struggles in the industry, but it turns out there's a whole other side to this messy drama, and it all leads back to Kirk. And now, Yandy has finally reached her breaking point. She's calling out Rasheeda, demanding answers, and what she just exposed is sending shockwaves through the entire love and hip-hop world. How deep does this betrayal go? How long has Kirk been secretly blocking Mendeecees from success? And why did Rasheeda stay silent about it? Oh, and just wait until you hear what Kirk did behind the scenes to keep Mendeecees from getting back on his feet. This story is getting crazier by the minute. But hold up, because here's where things take a wild turn. Yandy wasn't about to let this slide. Not this time. Not after everything Mendeecees had been through. And especially not after she found out that Kirk Frost, of all people, might be the reason her man's career never took off the way it should have. It all started at a high-profile industry event in Atlanta. The air was thick with tension, the kind you could cut with a knife. Yandy had heard whispers, rumors that had been circulating for years, but this time she had receipts. And when she spotted Rasheeda, she knew this was her chance to get some answers. But let's rewind for a second, because this story is about to take a turn nobody saw coming. For years, Mendeecees Harris was grinding in the industry, trying to make a name for himself. He had talent, connections, and a strong hustle, but something kept holding him back. Every time he got close to a major deal, something went wrong. A contract would suddenly fall through. A promised collab would mysteriously disappear. And every single time, the doors that should have been wide open for him somehow slammed shut right in his face. At first, Yandy thought it was just bad luck. The industry can be ruthless, after all. But then, she started noticing a pattern, a disturbing one. The same names kept popping up. And at the center of it all, Kirk Frost. Now, Kirk isn't exactly known for being the most honest man in the game. If you've watched Love and Hip Hop, you already know his history is messy. But this was on a whole other level. Yandy had reason to believe that Kirk had been pulling strings behind the scenes to block Mendeecees from ever making it big. And if Kirk was involved, then what did that mean for Rasheeda? Did she know? Was she part of it? Or was she just as in the dark as everyone else? That's exactly what Yandy wanted to find out when she walked up to Rasheeda at that event. The room was buzzing, people were mingling, and the cameras were rolling. Yandy, looking fierce as ever, locked eyes with Rasheeda. She didn't waste a second. "Rasheeda, we need to talk." Rasheeda raised an eyebrow, sipping her drink like she didn't have a care in the world. About what? And that's when Yandy dropped the bomb. About your husband. The second those words left her mouth, the energy in the room shifted. Conversations around them quieted down. People started glancing over, sensing that something big was about to go down. Rasheeda scoffed, flipping her hair back. What about him? Yandy took a deep breath, steadying herself before she spoke. "I know what he did to Mendeecees, and I want to know if you were in on it." Just like that, the gloves were off. Rasheeda's smile faltered for a split second, just long enough for Yandy to notice. But then she laughed. "Girl, what are you even talking about?" Yandy wasn't backing down. "I'm talking about how every time Mendeecees had a deal lined up, something went wrong. And every time, it traced back to Kirk. He's been playing puppet master, making sure my man NEVAR got the opportunities he deserved. Now, I need to know, were you a part of this, or were you just sitting back and letting it happen?" Rasheeda's eyes narrowed. "You need to watch what you're saying, Yandy." But Yandy wasn't fazed. "No, you need to start talking, because the receipts I got, they don't lie." At this point, a small crowd had gathered. People were whispering, phones were coming out, because everybody knew when drama popped off, you better catch it on camera. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any crazier, Rasheeda's smile faltered for a split second, just long enough for Yandy to notice. But then she laughed. "Girl, what are you even talking about?" Yandy wasn't backing down. "I'm talking about how every time Mendeecees had a deal lined up, something went wrong. And every time, it traced back to Kirk. He's been playing puppet master, making sure my man NEVAR got the opportunities he deserved. Now I need to know, were you a part of this or were you just sitting back and letting it happen? Rasheeda's eyes narrowed. You need to watch what you're saying, Yandy. But Yandy wasn't fazed. No, you need to start talking. Because the receipts I got, they don't lie. At this point, a small crowd had gathered. People were whispering, phones were coming out, because everybody knew when drama popped off, you better catch it on camera. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any crazier. The crowd around them was growing, phones out, whispers spreading like wildfire. People knew this was about to be a love and hip-hop level confrontation, and nobody was missing it. But Rasheeda wasn't about to let Yandy control the narrative. So, you're telling me that Kirk, my husband, had something to do with Mendeecees' career? Why would he even care? Yandy took a step closer, lowering her voice just enough to make sure the tension stayed thick. Because Mendeecees was about to sign a deal that would put him on a whole new level. A deal that, oh, surprise, surprise, Kirk's little connections managed to block. And you're gonna sit here and act like you don't know anything about that? Rasheeda's lips pressed into a thin line. She hated being put on the spot, and Yandy knew it. But the thing is, Rasheeda wasn't stupid. She knew how the industry worked. And most importantly, she knew her husband. And this sounded exactly like something Kirk would do. But admitting that in front of a crowd, not gonna happen. Yandy, I think you've been misinformed. Rasheeda's tone was calm, calculated. If you have receipts, show them. Otherwise, don't come at me like this. Yandy smirked. Oh, you want receipts? She pulled out her phone. Let's start with this. She tapped the screen and suddenly, the whole vibe of the room changed. Because the second Rasheeda saw what was on that phone, her whole expression shifted. It was an email thread, clear as day, linking Kirk to a series of blocked deals. Deals that were supposed to be Mendeecees' big break. And the worst part, there was a message from Kirk himself telling a high-profile industry executive that Mendeecees wasn't the right fit for a certain label. Now, anyone who knew how the game worked knew what that meant. That wasn't just a suggestion, that was a power move. A clear signal to blackball Mendeecees from the industry. And Rasheeda, she couldn't deny what was right in front of her. Her grip on her drink tightened, her nails digging into the glass. Where did you get this? Yandy raised an eyebrow. Does it matter? The point is, it happened. And I need to know if you were in on it. Rasheeda let out a slow breath, glancing around at the watching eyes, the recording phones. She was cornered, and she knew it. Look, she started, carefully choosing her words. I had no idea Kirk was doing anything like this. If this is real, Yandy cut her off. Girl, don't play with me. You know exactly what you're looking at. Rasheeda hesitated, and for a brief second, something flickered in her expression. Was it guilt, regret, or just the realization that she might have been played just like everyone else? I'm not gonna stand here and act like Kirk doesn't make moves without telling me. Rasheeda's voice was lower now, almost like she was admitting something she didn't want to say. But I swear to you, Yandy, I didn't know about this. Yandy studied her face, looking for any sign of a lie. And honestly, she didn't see one. But that didn't mean she was letting it go. Then you need to check your husband, Yandy said firmly. Because what he did, it wasn't just shady, it was career-ending. And I'm not about to let him get away with it. Rasheeda sighed, shaking her head. I need to talk to him. Yandy took a step back, crossing her arms. Yeah, you do. Because if you don't handle this, I will. And just like that, the energy in the room hit a whole new level. Because this wasn't just a confrontation anymore. This was a warning, and Rasheeda knew when Yandy made a promise like that. She meant every word of it. The air was thick with tension as Rasheeda walked away from Yandy, her mind racing. She needed to get to Kirk, fast, because if what Yandy was saying was true, if Kirk really had sabotaged Mendeecees' career, then this wasn't just some industry drama. This was about power, betrayal, and a secret that could destroy everything. Back at home, Rasheeda stormed through the front door, her heels clicking against the floor. Kirk, we need to talk. Kirk was sitting on the couch, casually scrolling through his phone. But the second he saw the look on Rasheeda's face, he knew. What happened? He asked, setting his phone down. Rasheeda folded her arms. That's what I want to know. Yandy just came at me with some serious receipts, and if they're real, we got a big problem. Kirk sighed, rubbing his temples. Rasheeda, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play dumb with me, Kirk. Her voice was sharp now. Did you, or did you note, pull strings to block Mendeecees' deals? Kirk leaned back, his expression unreadable. Where is this coming from? Stop deflecting, Kirk. Just tell me the truth. Kirk exhaled slowly, staring at Rasheeda like he was deciding how much to say. Then, finally, he leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. All right, fine, I made some calls. I gave my opinion. But that's just business, Rasheeda. Rasheeda's mouth fell open. Divas and yeses. Kirk, you sabotaged a man's entire career. Kirk shook his head. I didn't sabotage anything. I just made sure the right people knew what they were getting into. Rasheeda's voice dropped. And what exactly were they getting into? Kirk? Silence. That's when it hit her. Oh my God, you were threatened. Kirk clenched his jaw, looking away. Kirk, who got to you? Who made you do this? Kirk stood up, running a hand over his face. Look, Rasheeda, the industry ain't just about talent. It's about survival. Mendeecees was stepping into territory that he had no idea about. People were watching. People who didn't want him in the picture. I just made sure he didn't get in over his head. Rasheeda took a shaky breath. So you let them destroy him instead? Kirk's silence was all the confirmation she needed. Rasheeda shook her head. You don't even realize what you've done, do you? Kirk's voice hardened. I did what I had to do. If I hadn't made that call, it wouldn't have just been Mendeecees' career online. It could have been worse. Rasheeda stared at him, her heart pounding. So, what? You think Yandy's just gonna let this slide? You think I'm gonna let this slide? Kirk's eyes darkened. You need to stay out of this, Rasheeda, for your own good, but she wasn't hearing it. Because she knew one thing for sure, this wasn't over. The next day, Yandy was waiting. She was done playing games. If Kirk thought he could just get away with this, he had another thing coming. And when Rasheeda walked up, looking like she hadn't slept all night, Yandy already knew. So, did you talk to him? Rasheeda nodded, her face unreadable. Yeah, and you were right. Yandy's eyes flashed. Of course I was. Now tell me, was he working alone, or is there more to this? Rasheeda hesitated. Because this was the moment. The moment where she had to decide whether she was going to protect Kirk or tell the truth. She took a deep breath. Yandy, you don't know the half of it. And just like that, the game changed. Because this wasn't just about Mendeecees anymore. This was about something much, much bigger. And Yandy, she was about to blow the whole thing wide open. This wasn't just about Kirk, Rasheeda, Yandy, or even Mendeecees anymore. This was about the industry's darkest secrets finally coming to light. So now, the real question is, what happens next? Will Yandy take this fight all the way to the top? Will Rasheeda stand by Kirk, or will she expose him for what he did? And most importantly, who else is involved in this mess? Because if Kirk was pressured into taking Mendeecees out of the game, who was pulling the strings? Y'all, this story is far from over. And trust me, what's coming next? It's gonna shock everyone. So tell me, do you think Kirk was just protecting himself, or was he being straight up shady? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to be the first to know when the next bombshell drops, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay locked in, because this drama is only getting started.